Phil owned an established business and it was really starting to grow. But he was using credit cards as an overdraft, had overdue accounts from suppliers, as well as a tax debt with the ATO. He needed to consolidate this debt and free up working capital. He saw Toowoomba's Edge Lending, who helped him replace these high-interest debts with one simple facility with lower repayments. Edge Lending Solutions, helping established businesses to grow.
Hi everyone, Scott from Edge Specialist Advice Network. Hope you're all well. Today we've got another installment of What the Numbers Say, and we're looking at birth rates across the globe and which countries are leading in those birth rates. So let's jump straight into it. Let's have a look at these numbers. So have a look at this. 15,000 people are born every hour on the planet. And you go, okay, well, where are they being born? Look, no surprises with India and China. Look, Nigeria and Pakistan, I guess that might be a surprise, but India and China probably make up a fifth of that by the look of it. And then you got a few other countries. Indonesia is probably not a surprise either. DRC and Ethiopia, so you've got some African countries, and the US. The US is a bit of a surprise to me. Down here, 418 people are born every hour in the United States of America. I find that quite interesting because we hear about the replacement rate of Western countries being quite poor, and it looks like the US is holding its own, so to speak. So that's pretty good. Bangladesh in there as well. But if you look at the big disparity here with India and China. Now, India in a very short amount of time will have more people in their country than China, and I guess you could say, well, Scott, why does that really matter? Who cares if these countries have such a high birth rate? Well, you've got to remember that what we're looking at a lot of the time is a labour triangle. So what good demographics show, or what a country needs when it looks at demographics, is a triangle like this where it has a large workforce that creates economic activity and can be taxed, pushing up to an older population that would be in their retirement as being supported tax-wise by the bottom section of the triangle. So some of the Western countries sort of go like this, where there's a big top-heavy section of boomers and things that are being supported by quite a small workforce down the bottom. But India and China and Mexico, I talk about it often, have some of the best demographics, but India is a standout here. So you can imagine that it's just demographics that are going to continue to be quite favourable for the Indian nation. And you can understand why India is looking to be really one of the primary powerhouses and great powers of the world coming up. Obviously, it has a lot to do with education. It has a lot to do with people rising up by living standards. But the demographics are there to support that. The demographics are there to support that sustainably for quite a long time. And you can understand why some people would go, well, the countries with the biggest populations that have reasonable schooling and are starting to lift up out of poverty could export their country's capital, their human capital, their working capital, so export their working people into other countries to start assimilating and having some sort of influence in those other countries. I could use Australia as a good example of that. We have we had quite a favourable immigration policy, especially with the country of India. We did quite a favourable deal with those guys, and you see that there's quite a large diaspora of Indian nationals that may become citizens of Australia, maybe dual citizens, maybe they're just here working, but that we have a large contingent of Indian people contributing to the Australian society. And you can go, well, Scott, why don't we just do what India does, and instead of needing to import human capital from other countries, why don't we just have more babies? And that's a really good question. The problem is we can't convince Australian nationals to quickly try and increase the birth rates. You would need to have 3, 4, and 5 children per family to sort of make any sort of consistently to make any sort of dent. Culturally, those things aren't happening. So we're relying on other countries to keep the birth rate up, and then we're importing those people when they're at their early 20s, maybe even late 20s, and sometimes in their 30s. We're importing them then after they've been educated and want to then come and work in our country. So interesting. I'm not sure if the reason that India and China have such a high birth rate is just culturally, or whether the government has some sort of financial incentives, some sort of, I guess, nudges in their tax policy or in their family policy to, incentivize people to do that. I can guarantee Australia does not. So anyway, guys, look, when we talk about, hey, it's Asia's time, it really is Asia's time. India is obviously Middle Asia, and China's Middle Asia. We've got Southeast Asia as well. You've got Indonesia here, you have Pakistan, Bangladesh, uh, you know, along with all of the economic activity that these guys produce, which is a lot, and the large populations that they already have. They also have the highest or the higher birth rates in the globe as well. So you can understand that trend is continuing, and we can see the next 100 years really is the Asian century. All right, guys, we need to know that because this is going to affect our mindset and how we're going to look at this part of the world and how we're going to invest with that part of the world too. Right, let's leave it there, guys. Remember, life is a family sport. Yours and Edge. See ya.
Dave and Lucy have been in business for a long time. They have a great business and a great team. After years of hard work, they wanted to increase their property portfolio with their dream home. But being self-employed, they found their bank's lending criteria very restricted. They sought Toowoomba's Edge Lending, the business lending experts. Edge Lending thinks outside the box and were able to secure a facility for Dave and Lucy to purchase the property. Edge Lending, making business lending easier.